Chapter 1 Introduction. Food is more than a basic human necessity. It is a powerful cultural symbol that reflects the history, beliefs, environment, and social structure of a society. Across different nations, culinary traditions serve as a lens through which we can understand deeper cultural narratives and identities. In the context of Asia, Indonesia, and Taiwan offer two compelling culinary landscapes, each shaped by centuries of migration, colonization, trade, religious practice, and regional diversity. The next one will be our research purpose. The first one is to identify the historical, cultural, and religious factors that shape the culinary cultures of Indonesia and Taiwan. To compare traditional ingredients, cooking techniques, and eating habits in both countries. To analyze how globalization and modern trends are influencing traditional food practice in each country. And then the last one is to understand the role of food in expressing cultural identity and regional diversity. The next one is about our research question. The first one is, what are the key differences in traditional ingredients and cooking techniques between Indonesia and Taiwan? The second one is, how do religion and cultural beliefs influence food customs in both countries? And then the third one, what role does globalization play in shaping modern food culture in Indonesia and Taiwan? The last one is, in what ways does food reflect the cultural identity of each nation?
Next chapter is literature review, and in this part we're going to be talking about culinary culture. Culinary culture is a rich expression of a society's identity, history, and values. Scholars from anthropology, cultural studies, and increasingly hospitality management recognize that food is not only a biological necessity, but also a key driver of tourism, cultural exchange, and guest experience. In the hospitality field, understanding local food traditions is essential for designing authentic guest experiences and promoting cultural sustainability. In this part, we're going to be talking about several different parts, important parts, who are key points in this literature review. The first one is the culinary culture as a cultural identity. Now, in hospitality, this perspective is highly relevant, as food is often one of the most direct and memorable ways tourists engage with culture. Second one is the culinary diversity in the country of Indonesia. Now, Indonesia's culinary diversity, shaped by regional ingredients and historical trade, is also a key resource in its hospitality and tourism development. Stuff like marketing and all of those traditional foods are part of Indonesia's national identity. This has implications for hospitality professionals seeking to design locally inspired menus or promote regional culinary tourism. The third one is Taiwanese culinary evolution. Now, Taiwan's food culture has been influenced by waves of migration and colonization, resulting in a cuisine that is both diverse and accessible. Now, Taiwan's night markets have become major tourist attractions, forming a crucial part of the country's destinations branding strategy. Now, the fourth one is religion, ritual, and guest preferences. Religious and ritual practices shape food availability and guest expectations, especially in culturally sensitive hospitality environments. In Indonesia, which is an Islamic dietary laws major country, this law affects everything from restaurant menu design to hotel kitchen operations. In Taiwan, Buddhist and Taoist traditions influence both vegetarian food demand and festival catering. Fifth one is globalization, culinary innovation, and hospitality strategy. Globalization has brought both challenges and opportunities to traditional culinary cultures. The sixth one is culinary tourism in hospitality studies. Culinary tourism, or travel, is motivated by food experiences, which has become a prominent subject in hospitality research. Seventh part is connecting culinary culture and hospitality. Now, taken together, all the 6 themes that is discussed in this literature review present a holistic view of how culinary culture functions not only as a symbol of national identity, but also as a dynamic force within the hospitality and tourism industries. The concept of food as cultural identity underpins all of those themes, shaping how people cook. Finally, we are going to be talking about the hypothesis. Now, these hypotheses go hand to hand with our research question that is explained earlier. One of the first to fourth questions that is explained in the beginning. Now, based on existing literature and cultural patterns, this study hypothesizes that Indonesia and Taiwan both exhibit distinct culinary identities shaped by differing religious influences, historical trajectories, and ingredient availability, while both cultures actively preserve traditional practices amid globalization. While both Indonesian and Taiwanese food cultures are evolving under global influence, current research points to the resilience of traditional culinary values in both countries.
Chapter 3 Methodology. Section 1 Research Design. This study adopts a qualitative comparative research design to explore and analyze the culinary cultures of Indonesia and Taiwan. A qualitative approach is most suitable for this research as it allows for deeper understanding of the cultural, historical, and religious elements embedded within its country food traditions. Rather than focusing on numeric data, the research centers on interpreting meaning, values, and lived experience associated with food practice in both countries. Section 2 Data collection and analysis. The data collection method is this research utilized to primary data collection, which is document analysis, which is secondary data, was gathered through academic journal, government publication, culinary history text, hospitality research report, and reputable online source. The second one is semi-structured interviews. To incorporate first-hand cultural perspective, a total of 8 semi-structured interviews were conducted, 4 with my individuals familiar with Indonesian culinary practices, and 4 with those who are knowledgeable about Taiwanese cuisine. Next is data analysis technique. The collected qualitative data was analyzed using thematic analysis, focusing on recurring patterns and cultural themes. The analysis was aligned with the research question and categorized with the following areas. So it's traditional ingredients and cooking techniques, religious and cultural influences, globalization and culinary change, food as a cultural identity. Next one, sample selection and justification. Participants were selected using purpose sampling, ensuring they had relevant experience or knowledge of culinary tradition in their country. The fourth one, ethical consideration. This study adhered to ethical research standard. All participants were informed of the purpose of the study and gave their consent to be interviewed. Second one, data collected was anonymized to protect participant privacy. The last one is cultural sensitivity was maintained, especially when discussing religious practice or traditional custom. The limitation. While the study offers meaningful insight, it's limited by a relative small sample size, which may not fully represent the culinary diversity within each country, language barrier, of course, and reliance on secondary source. Section 3, the research framework alignment. This methodology aligns with the research purpose and question stated in chapter 1 and 2. Each method was selected to answer perspective question. The research question is, what are the key differences in traditional ingredients and cooking technique between Indonesia and Taiwan?
The second one, how the religion and cultural belief influence food custom in both countries. Third question is, what role does globalization play in shaping modern food culture in Indonesia and Taiwan? The fourth question, in what does food reflect the cultural identity of each nation? So for that question, the corresponding method is the first one, document analysis and interview response from the chef and culinary instructor. The second one, interview insight on dietary practices and religious food ritual. The third one, literature review on food trends and interviews discussing fast food, fusion, and media influence. The fourth one, interpretive analysis based on all sources, especially interviews. Methodology, thematic comparison of documented and narrated technique, contextual analysis of religious influence on food practices, comparative insight into fast food, fusion cuisine, and tourism trends, synthesis of food practices, symbol, and personal expression. This framework ensures that methodology directly support the hypothesis developed in the literature review and provides credible qualitative evidence for cultural comparisons.
Now we're going to talk about the predicted result and discussion. So section number 1, predicted result. So building on the findings from the literature review and preliminary interview insights, the following predicted results reflect how Indonesia and Taiwan culinary cultures different and intersect across the key themes on this study. Now we will talk about difference in traditional ingredients and cooking techniques. It is predicted that Indonesian cuisine will be characterized by intensive spice usage, slow cooking techniques, and strong regional variety. Dishes such as rendang, nasi goreng, and of course satay are likely to showcase traditional spices like nutmeg, turmeric, and galangal, often prepared using methods like braising, grilling, and of course deep frying. In contrast, Taiwanese cuisine will always likely emphasize the lighter and seasonings, focusing on freshness, texture, and balance. These dishes such as lu rou fan, beef noodle soup, yu rou mian, or xiao long bao are predicted to demonstrate cooking styles such as braising, steaming, and stir-frying. This reflects Taiwan's historical influences from Fujianese and Japanese cooking, which flavor is umami-based and subtle flavor profiles. And those differences are underscore how geographically, agriculturally, products and culinary philosophy shape core food practices. They also reveal potential differences in kitchen operations, meal pacing, and ingredient sourcing in hospitality settings. Number 2, religious and cultural influences on culinary practices. Religion is expected to play a more central and structured role in Indonesian cuisine, where Islamic dietary laws, such as halal, dictate permissible ingredients, preparation, and even service methods. This is likely to result in uniform hospitality practices, such as halal certifications in hotels and food establishments, particularly in Java and Sumatra. For example, if you go to some cafe or restaurant in Indonesia, you could see there little tags or stickers that the food is halal. So it probably means that the food here is religious friendly. For example, if you're a Muslim person, you could eat here without any worries that it is prohibited food. Okay, now we'll talk about religious and cultural influences on culinary practices. In Taiwan, religious influence on food is expected to be more seasonal and more philosophical, while Buddhist and Taoist beliefs promote food more vegetarian, and those kind of practices are typically observed during the religious holidays, temple festivals, or even through daily routines by devout followers. And of course, unlike Indonesia, the religious influence in Taiwan is less regulatory and more rooted in personal choice, ethical consumption, and racial expression. This predicted distinction will likely affect how religious observances are translated into hospitality services such as menu design, festival programming, or even kitchen adaptations for religious guests. Number 3, the influence of globalization and modern culinary innovation. So, globalization is anticipated to be a powerful yet differentiated force in both countries. In Indonesia, traditional dishes are expected to be creatively adapted into modern fast food or, of course, fine dining forms, and while retaining the original flavor identity. For example, satay burgers, or rendang pizza, or upscale versions of gado-gado in boutique hotels. For example, people nowadays in Indonesia, they really like the original flavor of national dishes, and they try to experiment some with fast food dishes like burgers and etc. So, at the same time, in Taiwan, the globalization is predicted to be deeply integrated into mainstream dining culture that's driven by Japanese, American, and Korean food trends. Taiwanese chefs and restaurants are expected to respond with high culinary adaptability, fusing the global techniques while preserving a Taiwanese aesthetics and cultural values. And of course, the hospitality industry in both nations is likely to embrace the culinary innovations as a strategy for tourist engagement, leading to curated food experiences that blend tradition with modern taste preferences. Part number 4, food as a cultural identity and tourism asset. Food in both countries, Indonesia and Taiwan, is expected to serve as a powerful medium for expressing national and regional identities. Indonesian food reflects a spiritual and communal and festive character rooted in religious customs and ceremonial life, when Taiwanese food reflects a historical layering of colonial, migratory, and indigenous influences presented through street food culture, home-style cooking, and fusion creativity. And of course, the culinary tourism is predicted to emerge as a strategic opportunity with governments, hotels, tour operators investing in food experiences that highlight authenticity and diversity. Travelers seeking cultural immersion are likely to view food as a gateway to understanding local history and, of course, lifestyle. And now we will talk about the predicted results. And of course, our results are suggest that food is not just a material need, it's a complex of cultural systems that deeply embedded in belief, geography, history, and of course, identity. Each of the research questions offers a meaningful insights into how the culinary landscape of Indonesia and Taiwan operates within its own logic while also responding to our global trends. Culinary identity and national character. The predicted differences in ingredients and techniques reflect not only regional climates and agricultural products, but also broader of cultural attitudes towards food. Religious influence and hospitality operations. So religion is not only a cultural force, but also a practical consideration in food service design. For instance, hotels and restaurants in Indonesia must navigate strict halal requirements in sourcing, preparation, and kitchen layout. In contrast, Taiwanese hospitality venues may cater to vegetarian demands during specific periods, for example, Lunar New Year, or they have to offer Buddhist-friendly menus as a part of cultural tourism offerings. The difference informs hospitality strategy. Indonesian food service must prioritize religious compliance, while Taiwanese hospitality emphasizes diversity and inclusivity to respond to varying guest preferences. And now we're going to talk about globalization and culinary authenticity. So globalization presents both a challenge and an opportunity. It's predicted that both countries will continue to face the tension between culinary innovation and preservation of tradition. However, both cultures appear to be resilient, adapting creatively without losing their culinary essence. This supports the hypothesis that authenticity is not static but evolves through engagement with global influences. For the hospitality sector, this suggests a valuable branding opportunity by offering modern food experience with authentic roots. Now we will go to another part that called practical implications for culinary tourism. This type of tourism will likely be a growing trend in both nations, with food being marketed not just like a product but as an experience. So those kind of opportunities include food festivals, for example, featuring regional cuisine and cooking demonstrations. Also, interactive cooking classes in hotels or local homes, and of course, night market tours with cultural storytelling. And of course, last but not least, is collaboration with local farmers and artisanal producers to promote sustainable food tourism. And of course, now in conclusion, I would like to say that the anticipated results and discussion strongly support the study's hypothesis. Indonesia and Taiwan maintain distinct culinary identities shaped by religion, history, and ingredients while adapting to globalization in culturally meaningful ways. For the hospitality and tourism industries, these identities are not only valuable heritage elements, but also quite competitive tools for designing immersive, respectful, and market responsive guest experiences.